Good afternoon, South Sudan. I hope you're doing well. And I'm glad to be back for another episode of Gender Talk 211. With me today is an amazing, amazing friend and then author, poet, conscious rapper, Ade the Truth. Hi, Ade.
Hey, Eva.
How are you doing? I'm so happy to have you back.
Right.
It's always a good show when, I have you on the radio.
Always. I'm very happy actually to be here, and it's for the good reasons again.
Right. Always for the good reasons. I'm so glad to see so much growth in you. And just to let everybody in on what I'm talking about, Ade is author of Lemonade Love, Stranded Lullabies, and now he has come with another banger, the controversial If Men Cried.
If men cry, only
If Men Cried. Right. We've never seen a South Sudanese production that came out that is very vulnerable for men. Right? Tell me about If Men Cried.
If men cried, this is a book that is sort of like close to my heart. I kept it very simple. I kept it something everybody could pick from. And If Men Cried came about like just being able to talk with a lot of guys. So I have a lot of friends in my circle basically, and we have conversations a lot most of the time. And I happen to be that kind of friend they sort of like open up to.
Right.
So drawing from all of that, like from those stories they tell me, the things they're going through and stuff, and when they go outside, see, these are the same guys you see, and they're so happy, they have everything, their shit go together and stuff like that, and you get confused, like is he really okay? But then he's not okay because we have been told by the society that like we as men, we have to be strong, we have to hold ourselves together, we have to be the bigger person, or like
Right.
we sort of like have to suppress our emotions and all of that. So this book was a birth of that, like for all the countless times I didn't cry, and now I'm writing down all my tears in this book. So like only if men cry reading this.
No, it's amazing, and I cannot thank you for my copy, by the way, and I cannot wait to read it. But of course, we've spoken, and prior to this show, you gave me a bit of context of what the book is about, and we've also seen online where you've posted a few pages of the book, and also as someone who has been your fan and who has followed your journey since Lemonade Love, you're someone that is very self-full and very content with your emotions. You're not afraid of really expressing your emotions. You're full of feelings and you're okay with that. We've seen it in Lemonade Love. We've also seen it in Stranded Lullabies. But this book basically explores your manhood. Let me say that. And this is the first time you've let us in that way. Right? Why now?
Why now is why not, because it's been a lot going on, like I mean all over the world, like it's been a lot going on, and everybody feels it the same way, everybody feels the pink the same way, and some choose to be strong, some choose to break down, some choose to talk, some choose to just me. I always choose to write, like I always choose to write, and this was the time I kind of really felt, because I mean there's a book that I'm actually supposed to release before this, and it's all printed, it's all whatever, it's in place and stuff, quarantine, but I feel the urgency.
It's the time for this one.
Exactly. I feel the urgency for this, and it's how I feel, and I feel like we need to normalize that. We need to normalize just speaking about how you feel. It doesn't really matter who you speak to, but as long as you've spoken that out, you've let out how you feel. Words are a dangerous thing, and they're the most beautiful thing at the same time when used well. So like if you let your words out, or if you speak how you feel, without really expecting anybody to sort of like save you and stuff, you're just speaking because you want to let go, but you know what you have to do, basically.
Right.
Like, yeah. So this is it for me. I felt now is sort of like the right time for me to like let this out there and stuff, and also like also been exploring a lot of fatherhood and stuff, and that comes with a lot of its own shenanigans and stuff. So like if I don't have that emotional stability to like be able to recognize when I'm low and let that out, then there is really never going to be some sort of alignment within me, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
No growth neither. Right.
Yeah.
So just remembering since Stranded Lullabies, which has been a while since you released that
2 years ago. Yeah.
Right, since you released that project, and that project was basically a lot of emotional and mental challenges or battles that you were going through, right? And since then, we've also been following that you've been on a mental health journey, right? Educationally, also a lot of the activities that you've been involved in within the communities, you've been on a mental health journey, and you talk a lot about detoxifying masculinity, right? Which basically explains what this book is. I want to know, for the past 2 years, were you on a journey of detoxifying your own masculinity? And did that actually influence or directly this book became a result of it?
That's a beautiful question. But yeah, like that's for reals. I mean, 2 years ago, like I wouldn't say I'm the same person 2 years ago. Basically, both emotionally, both mentally, and all of that. Like I'm completely different. And yes, I went on some sort of a journey, and that was mostly that. It was me more like finding myself, basically, like because I kind of feel like Juba overshadows you, because all these friends and you, it's the same routine and like the same cycle and all of that. Like, so when you go out to a whole complete place where nobody knows you, you don't know nobody, it's, you feel like a newborn, you know what I mean? Like, you can redefine yourself now. You can like choose to be like, okay, what is that aspect of me I've suppressed for a very long time? Here I can just be myself. Here I can just be who I am, and I will see how they take that, because I'm giving them the role me. They're not going to judge me because they don't know me. So yeah, so I did that. I actually did that.
You
and
took that as an opportunity for change.
Exactly. A complete opportunity to like just explore myself, to just see what are those things that I didn't do or I didn't want to do because I'm scared of judgment, or because I'm scared about what people would say, or I'm scared about how they would look at me. Like, what are those things? And those are the things I did. And it felt super liberating. Like it felt really good, because you get to be yourself now, and you get to let out. You get to let out how you feel. You get to let out what's going on with you. You just get to speak, and that is what I did. And the good thing also by then is I was doing trauma healing sessions with a bunch of young people in these communities, using like community approaches. But like in the process of me doing the trauma healing, I'm the one who's actually healing.
Right.
So like it was literally a back and forth. Like, they made me see life from different perspectives. They made me, so that makes me understand that there is deeper things to life than bottling up your emotions. If you can see in the book, it's only 4 chapters.
Right.
And one of the chapters, it says cry baby. That is the first one. And then the second one is bottled up tears. And then the third chapter is spill. And then the fourth chapter is clean it up. So basically,
that was your process.
Yeah. So as a child, I was a crybaby. My mama used to tell me that every single day. The first poem on the book. Like, my mom used to tell me I cried every single day, and that that now when I grew to be sort of like an adolescent, or like when I was in high school and all of that, I started to be like a tough guy, because that was the narrative then, like, you know what I mean? That's what you see all the boys are doing. That's the toxic masculinity now, like they
Right.
define manhood as being aggressive, or being like you can be soft, and I was a mama's boy, so like
Right.
it's complete different spectrums basically. So like I had to try to be tough, you know. I had to try to bottle up the tears, and
But you
then
weren't that guy.
I wasn't that guy,
Right.
and I'm still not that guy.
Right.
Yeah. So and then after bottling up, that's where the spill comes. So I spill. Now me finding myself, then I start to spill my tears. I start to allow myself to cry when I need to. I start to feel when I need to. Like I start to just be vulnerable when I need to be vulnerable, basically. And that's me spilling. And then the fourth chapter, we just clean it up. It's basically, of course, after me doing the whole spill, that gives me sort of clarity. It makes me understand that, okay, there is something that is not good for you here emotionally, and it makes you feel this type of way. So you embrace it, accept it, and then just clean your shit up. Like just clean it up, basically. So that is it for me, basically. That is.
I have to ask, although I think I know the answer to this one. How do
Yeah.
you feel now?
Feel beautiful, man.
You've gone through the process. You've rediscovered
Yeah,
yourself. How do you feel?
it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing to just allow yourself to flow. I mean, the life is a flow, and everything has like a major plan for us. And there's like uh, the universe already knows, and you already know what you're up to, basically. So like you don't have to fret, or you don't have to. You have to just find that peace within you, and I feel like that is all that matters, if I'm not mistaken. Like to me, that's all that matters. As long as I can create a balance within myself between my emotional being, my physical being, and my spiritual being, then I am completely whole. Like, and that's how I feel. I feel
Right.
whole. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, there's issues or things that happen and all of that, but you just don't let them break you, because you know.
Right. And
Yeah.
sometimes you deal with things better when you actually process the emotions of that first shock.
Right.
Like,
right.
okay, this is bad. Let me just cry about it. And then what are we going to do to move on?
Perfect.
Right.
That's it.
We forget that process
We
a
always
lot of
forget
the
it.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you speak on detoxifying masculinity, obviously you still have circles that you're around. You have friends that you're around that feel that way.
Yeah.
That feel, being a man is actually being aggressive and not crying and being strong. And do you have conversations with those circles of friends? And what is the reception?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of my friends. We've been driving around at night, and we just talk, and you find that the guy breaks down in the car, starts crying and stuff, and you know what like a normalized version of that would mean, like everybody's gonna be like, you know, it's not even a war about like more feminine or more masculine. It's now like against that, like we the opposites of that, like
Right.
and this cannot thrive. Like toxic masculinity cannot thrive unless if everybody is still following the same rules. That's the thing, because like these are rules that are not defined and stuff, like with a bunch of codifications. You hear like there's bro code, there's bromance, there's
Right.
like
Right.
like if a friend of mine right now like gets a little bit sensitive, or like I just released the book, to be like, man, I'm super proud of you, man, I love you, bro. And then he will have to, why does there have to be an urge of saying no homo at the end of that? You see what I mean? Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I mean, like I've gotten that from like, so why do we have to like why is emotional sensitivity, why does it have to be sexual? Why do you have to think sexual, like to say
Right.
no? So I can't compliment a lady about something, or like be proud of them, or like say I like you or whatever, without me having any sexual thoughts. No, I like Evelope. I fucking love Evelope.
Right, right.
And you don't have. And now that's the thing. So why can't a brother or like a friend
Express that to
tell me the
another
same thing?
brother,
Like,
right?
yeah, like in a very chill way, without having to think about the no homo part, because the society says you can't be emotionally attached or sentimental to like a dude or stuff like that, or like to somebody like. So that is what I'm seeing. But then like some of my boys, which is a very good thing, like they open up and we have this conversation, and actually most of them help me a lot, like especially with the book and stuff. I shared it with a couple of guys.
Okay. With writing, reviewing the book.
Like, I mean, there are those who do it like trolling, but then once you troll also, that's how you normalize things, you know, like be like, man, you're so sensitive in this book, man, like don't be, you know, like it's just some sort of words and stuff. But you see, that is what normalizes this kind of things, and then you find other young people too will start to emotionally unattach themselves too, because I mean it's seen as that's gay, or like that is like this, or like that is whatever. Yeah, so that kind it's just within ourselves, like the whole fact that it's the men who've set these rules, and these are rules that are not even written down, they just know it mentally, basically.
Right.
This is how we are supposed to behave, this is how everything's supposed to go, which is not right. Like,
right,
everybody has a path. If you are emotionally strong, good for you.
right.
But don't sort of like influence another person to feel like them being able to be vulnerable is some sort of sign of weakness. Basically, it's not. Yeah.
Amen to that. Very, very true.
Yeah.
So this year I've learned something very important, which is if you want to, first of all, you can't change people if they don't want to, right?
Totally.
And you can't change their mind about anything if they don't want to. You can change yourself. And that reflection, that what other people see in your change might change them, right?
Totally.
So when we speak let's say toxic traits, I look a lot at myself and say, okay, what are my own toxic traits, right? And what do I need to change? What do I want to change? What do I not like that I need to change? And I did that this year, and I saw a lot of change in people around me, people very close to me, especially family members. Not just that, even strangers online. You know, I saw a lot of shift, a lot of change, right? So I want to know, what are your own like toxic masculine traits that you detoxified or you would like to change?
I, of course, I'm not gonna like mention all of that, but yeah, but one
We're
of the
not
things,
judging you, Ade.
I know, but yeah, but of course, yeah. One of the things always is to just being able to be in a position like I said early on. I grew into this adolescent who sort of like became a product of my environment. I was born crying, but then my environment was telling me that is something you cannot do. So I became so much of a guy who suppressed his emotions. I suppressed my feelings. Like this beautiful smile people always see on my face always had like corroded bones behind it. Like I was always going through a lot mentally, or like I'm dealing with a lot of different stuff, but like none of my friends, and this is for a fact, even like sometimes like way back, if I dated a girl, like they would never know
what you were
I'm
going through,
you know, because like I choose to just be the happy guy. I choose to give that emotion, and that was a very toxic trait, because it actually made me develop like a chest problem at some point, like, because you know, once you bottom thing up, like you find your chest is intense and like it's consistent.
True. It gets difficult to breathe. You get a lot of anxiety out of it. Yes.
So it became that intense, and I mean that's one of the biggest things I had been working like to change and stuff, and I would say I'm getting there, because one of the poems here in the book says like talk to somebody, it helps. I speak from experience. Yeah. So basically, talk to someone. Like it usually helps. I speak from experience. Like that is, I have done that, and I've seen like the effects of it. I mean, like we've had a lot of conversations most of the time about like things going on. So basically, it's one of those traits that I've been, and I feel like everybody else can do that. I mean, it doesn't have to be anybody. Like, I feel everyone has that one person they have in their mind that I can talk to this person. Like, all of us, I mean, you shouldn't, as a master or whatever, but like we should try so much to have that emotional support system, a social support system, because we are nothing without the people around us.
Absolutely. I also think that the people who are supposedly the support system or the people that are around need to be open to listen.
Exactly.
Right? Because sometimes people, they don't need you to do something for them. That they don't need you to say anything.
Exactly.
They just need you to listen. They need to be able to let out their feelings, and then they will fix it. They will take it up from there. But what goes on in our minds most of the time is that when someone wants to talk or share their feelings or share some problems that are really bothering them, we get annoyed. We start thinking, oh, they want something.
Like attention.
Right. They're seeking attention. And that can be true. But most of the time, especially in my experience, like personal experience, people really just need to be heard.
Completely.
Right? And you validate people's feelings by just listening to them. Your feelings are valid.
Totally.
I've heard you. So the trolling part, which you mentioned, which we witness many men, like circles of men, that's what they do. As soon as someone expresses something, it becomes a trolling session, and you don't realize that this is going to affect this person's
words
life.
I say they're very dangerous. Like they're completely dangerous. I'll read you like a very small poem.
Go ahead.
Like, it's, you see, so basically this is poem number 4. It says, "Father's words quickly imprinted themselves on the wall, solidifying their place in our home. Cry, baby. Stop crying all the time. Act like a man. You're a boy. Boys shouldn't cry this much. Don't be so fragile. Cut the waterworks." So you can see these are like words. They're just words, but then they as a child it would create a shadow. Like I would suppress that part of me, that emotional side of me, because I have been told that like that I'm not supposed to be fragile. A man like me cannot cry. I can't be like my sister or like whatever and all that. So like you get to suppress that emotional side of you basically because of how people or like what people say. So this is the same thing like with the guys too. Like they once you start to troll somebody over, they will be self-conscious the next time they're in that circle because they don't want to do something that might get them trolled.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you touched on that and you read us that beautiful poem because that's what I'm coming back to. Fathers and taught toxic masculinity. Coming back to fathers, a lot of what we know has to do with culture. And how culture says this is how men should be. This is how men should act. Also gender roles that have been placed by culture, right? So I don't want you to go so personal as to your own experience with your own father, right? But the experience of boys in general in South Sudan, ever since they're young, is... don't cry. Men don't cry, right? And of course, since a boy is at a very young age, they're learning already how to become a man. It's almost the only mission that a boy has is to become a man. And they're being taught being emotional is not a good thing. That's not a man.
It's not a manly thing,
right? It's not a manly thing. Cooking is not a manly thing. Not being able to provide for the family is not a manly thing. That already eliminates the help factor. right? In their minds, I can't let whoever it is, my partner, put in any kind of help. Because I'm a man, I can take care of this. Terms like man of the house.
Man of the house.
Man of the house. I don't know who came up with that term, but it is literally killing men in South Sudan because
man of the house.
Right, because you have that entire that responsibility is on your neck. You have no help. You don't want to accept any help, and in the process, you
just for saying that specifically, like this is a research, and I have read it. It was by Washington University, on how most men, like majority of the men who have their spouses or like their partners who are earning more than them or who are working more than them have been diagnosed with a lot of traits of insomnia, depression, and all of that. You see, now you become depressed just simply because you feel like my wife is, I mean, that's more food for us. She's making more money than me.
Right. But we don't have that train of thought for some reason.
All that comes back to the house at the end of the day, and you chose a partner. So basically that already explains a lot, like the whole idea that someone would reach an extent of getting depressed simply because his wife earns more than him. He's having sleepless nights basically because he does not wrap his head around that. Like that is, I find it crazy. And now coming back to like our fathers, basically, I wouldn't, growing up now, like I wouldn't judge my dad so much because that's how he was raised too. You know what I mean? Like, and so like it was just a cycle. It was just going on. It was just going on. But like I would only ask him about like, you should have done better. You know what I mean? Like you should have recognized, because you also felt at that moment. But then like there's times for everything, and nobody, most South Sudanese fathers, like, well, I like to say we just have parents like who give birth to us, but they're like not like fathers, because the father would see me or like call me up and be like, okay, how was the day today? Like you look sort of like off. You should know the traits that your son is showing. Is he being bullied at school? How is he reacting? Basically, okay, what kind of child is he? Because there are some masculine dudes whose feminine sides are like, whatever, like take over more. That's people now, like, I mean, it's a thing right now, non-binary people, or like people who don't identify with. So that is normal, like, and that's what people don't want to go to. So like you need to recognize like what your son is, and this is something that goes way back, and I'll speak to my community specifically. They would rather let the boy go out there. They wouldn't even care whether he had like about 4 days out of the house, wherever he slept and all of that. But they would police the girl so much that she can't go nowhere. And you see what that is creating. It's creating a neglect from the other side. And this boy is going to grow up with none of that emotional whatever, because he didn't really get it from his parents. Like,
correct.
So his son is not going to get the same thing. And it just becomes a cycle. And I think I told you some time back, that is one of the things, like me personally, you know, and I've heard this conversation with my father before, like where I totally told him we have all these things going on. We have different cultures and all of that, but there's a bunch of harmful things inside this culture. But that stuff, it stops with me. Like my children are not seeing none of that. Like,
yes,
yeah, it's all going to stop.
The cycle
with
does
me.
not
Yeah,
continue.
Like, it's going to stop with me, and I feel that's the mindset like everybody should sort of like have, especially at this age of time, because things are changing, and for you to change is you to create your own path. It's not to follow a path that has been walked on for a very long time, and it didn't take people nowhere. Like, I mean, it just finds you in the same place. So like make that choice as a young father. If there's like fathers out there, it's never really because kids, especially at a very young age, it's the most beautiful time for them to learn or like to pick things up. So like we need to feed them things that we've not been fed, because we've been fed a lot of junk.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. So I grew up in a family where my father was such a girl dad. Right? He was such a girl dad. He was probably a feminist before he even knew what that meant. And he passed away 2 years ago, but before that, he was someone that involved his children in everything. He wanted us to know how things are run, how to survive, right? How to carry on your own. And he was very much not harder, but he was more focused on his girls than the boys, right? And I would ask him, like, why aren't you asking them to to do this and do that? And he would say, when he was growing up, no one believed in his sisters, and they were really brilliant.
Nice.
No one believed in them to become something really great. And he doesn't want that for us.
Nice.
So he's overly even
until he's like having an oversight with the boys. Basically.
Right.
Like, it's good intentions, but like
right.
that oversight's still there.
Right. So that's why I'm even sharing this, because he focused on one part so much that the other part was probably feeling very neglected.
I totally get
right. But then also what I've noticed about him after his demise is that he carried on the culture of he should do everything. Right? Because after he passed away, you start to notice the gaps that you have now in the family, which he was carrying without your notice even. And I start to understand, even feeling guilty sometimes, that this had to have been
heavy,
very, very heavy. I don't know how you slept carrying this in your mind without sharing it. Without sharing it with anyone, right? No one to actually. Sometimes I even blame myself, like, why couldn't I just ask him, are you okay? Is everything okay? And he carried it with such grace to where you don't see it.
Exactly.
It's almost
and that's
impossible.
The thing. That's a mask.
Right. You have a point called mask.
On a mask.
Right.
Like, you see, like, how we put on a lot. And men have mastered that for so much. Like we master the art of like just being this person when you are not that person, and it becomes hard. Like it becomes hard because it's getting heavy. It's piling up on you. But then like you have to stay very strong. You have to like put a mask on as a man or like as a father. Basically, like your kids should not know that we are going through this or we are lacking this. Look, these kids of these days understand. Like as long as you see the child down, be like, look, so this is what is going on.
Right. This is what this what's happening.
Exactly.
Right.
You see, it saves a lot of burden. It saves a lot of expectations that you are fighting to try to meet every single time. Basically, like it's of course it's always too many expectations being someone's father, because your kid definitely is not going to look anywhere else. They're going to look at you.
At you, right.
Or you yourself, you know that there's a responsibility. You have to serve here, but then that should not come at the cost of your mental. It should not come at the cost of your emotions, basically, because there's no way you are going to even be positive to this child when your emotions are screaming to be let free, basically. So you always try to a lot of people, a lot of men have created, like, become aggressive, basically, because those emotions are there. It's just a very few that try to handle all of this stuff, and but most people, like, it becomes too much, and that it develops a very aggressive trait inside them, basically.
Yes, aggressive trait, aggressive behavior, attitude. We see it all of the time. Exactly. Another thing that it creates is mental health challenges.
Yeah, big ones.
Right, you have so many. I'm so glad nowadays we are more open to mental health conversations. People are talking about it because people are going through it, and now for us to actually find a solution, we have to identify the problem. Exactly. That's how it's becoming more acceptable to have conversations on mental health. But also, I can't imagine how challenging it must be to suppress emotions.
It's hard, man.
It has to be.
I mean, it's a lot of work too. Like, like what is the point? Right now I ask myself that question, like what was the point? Or like all those countless times maybe, or like those moments. I mean, there are points where I actually still do that, like I still suppress how I feel basically. And that one, it's I would say it's just due to like I feel like it's not the right environment for me to like let, because sometimes too it's very important to know who you let your emotions out to. Like
Right.
it's not everybody that's gonna be receptive to some might even down you more. So it's heavy. It's heavy, and that's where you find people are always absent-minded. Like people are doing completely. We've seen people moving on the streets and they're just crossing and they don't even notice anything around them, or like so. Your mind, you don't become present because you're thinking about all these things that if you should have let out, you would know that at least I spoke to someone about it, and that relief, the relief of just knowing that somebody heard me, like at least somebody knows that I'm going through something like this.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So that becomes an issue basically, like
Definitely.
Yeah.
Of course, you've been doing a lot of community work,
Yeah.
community conversations on
Yeah.
mental health. Does masculinity come up? Toxic masculinity. Have you had
It's
conversations?
everywhere.
Right.
It's actually one of the biggest contributions of like very many issues that they face, like in the communities basically, because half of these young people are just raised to is they're like things they're born, they're roles they're born to be assigned, like you're born, this is your role, this is, and that's all they know. So like if even like when we go around and we talk about like women and stuff, or like the other day we had this conversation, like some couples basically came with their wives. This is the villages, and then we're trying to have a conversation on like on like mental health and how it contributes a lot to GVV, like especially marital raps and like things that happen in the house, domestic violence and all of that. Yeah, and you could sense that how uncomfortable they are, like to even like have this conversation with their wives. They're like, I kind of feel like some of them wanted to like come over and be like, hey man, like yo, you messing up our women's heads.
We can't. Right. Right.
Like you're messing up our women's heads. You can't be telling them that I should not do this to her while I'm there, command and all of that. Like so you see, they know they have already distributed these roles for themselves. Like this is me, this is what I do as a man basically. So like it's still super, and that's not even a conversation that they're still open to have really. Like right now it's hard.
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even when we just released, we announced that you were coming on the show, and we're discussing If Men Cried and detoxifying masculinity. The feedback online showed a lot of toxic masculinity, right? Because people were not ready to have this conversation. Yes, as a man, I'm supposed to not cry. I've seen comments and so on. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it actually makes me feel like they know. You see, that's the thing. Like they know that this is not good, but they just don't want to let go because they don't know what's on the other side.
Right.
And that is a problem. That becomes a problem itself, because and I mean, like, really no shit. Some people just jump on things to speak simply because they want to sound intelligent and stuff, but like, we need to accept that this is a problem. We don't have to like sort of like sugarcoat things and be like, look, we've been raised like this, and that is the problem itself. We have been raised like that, and we don't have to raise our children like that, or we don't have to carry those. You are taught as a young person, and then while you grow, you start to find yourself. You start to unlearn some of the things that you feel like you won't need in your life. But we are not choosing to unlearn some of those things. We are carrying all of it. So whatever, like I mean, whatever they say, or like how people feel about this, I feel regardless, it's necessary. Like we need to. South Sudan is still a very young country. It's a very beautiful thing. Like, and we have a lot of young people in the country. So like, just imagine if our intentions and emotions were all aligned, like we feel we let ourselves, we we would live more on empathy. Like we would have a little bit of empathy for the other person. You know, like I feel her pain because like I would cry if I was in her position too. Or I feel his pain. I would do this if I was in his position. So like, so you shouldn't feel like if somebody does that, like it's yeah, you say that, but I saw a comment too, like about somebody said something about why do we want men to be less masculine? Yeah, you see where the problem is. We don't want men to be less masculine. It's not even about masculinity and femininity. It's not even about that. It's about knowing what it means to be a man. What it means to be a man. Like, what are some of these characteristics that define a man? You are a man already. You cannot even make you less of who you are because you're already that.
You're already that.
Yeah. So why would we make you less of that? So like so basically, I feel people don't understand some of these things, and I feel that's the problem of like we use a lot of big wordings and like people have, but then I understand that we just need to accept. We just need to accept that like being a man does not mean that you have to like hold a certain kind of, you as a person, you're already engineered like to a certain way to work. Like that's why the tears come. That's you already engineered as that person. So like all these other traits or like whatever characteristics that are now assigned to you by the people around you, those are what we are calling toxic. Those are the things that are affecting you basically.
Absolutely. Affecting you and other people that are around you. So it needs to be rid of. Ade, I'm so happy to have had you today and discuss everything. If Men Cried, just a few more things. When is the official release? When are we able to now buy a signed copy, let me say?
All right. That's going to be on this Sunday. It's not like a public launch and stuff, so I won't reveal the venue where it's going to be, but definitely by Sunday you'll get all these books in any of these supermarkets. Basically, they're going to be at Lily's, they're going to be at Phoenicia, they're going to be I'll give you the details of where they're all going to be, but like by Sunday you'll find all this stuff at nearby supermarkets around you basically.
Nice. And where do we get a copy online?
If you go online, just go on Amazon. You'll get the Kindle version if you want. You'll get the paperback, or you can even have a hard copy of it, like a hard cover of it. So, or you could just go on like my socials, really. Like on my Twitter, it's like Ade the Truth. That's a TH and A. So I added the truth.
Ade the Truth, ladies and gentlemen, and we will add a link. Just after we finish this interview, for the ladies to be able to buy their partners a Christmas gift. If you want to buy your man something, this is it. Meanwhile, I have an announcement before I wrap up for the show. So next week is 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Gender Talk 211 will be hosting Orange, South Sudan 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, a Gender Talk 211 campaign supported by the Embassy of Canada in South Sudan, which will also involve various activities and events. One of those activities is Talking Circles on the 25th of November in partnership with Paranet Media, Nur Leomon Art Exhibition and at Nyokuran Cultural Center, a campaign also against violence against girls and women. The second activity will be Orange South Sudan event, where Gender Talk 211 will be revealing a themed article series and photography written and photographed by South Sudanese women as they shed light on different forms of GBV. The event will be hosted at the Babab House, but I will give you more details on the social media platforms. You can either go to mine at Eva Lopa or Gender Talk 211 on Facebook, Twitter, on Facebook and Twitter. Yes, we will also be having Gender Talk 211 radio shows every Thursday right here on Advanced Youth Radio on gender-based violence in South Sudan. So stay tuned, and I will be back with you next Thursday. My name is Eva Lopa. Drive safe and good night.